Morning.
Om
Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharyamadhyamam Asmadacharyaparyantam Vande Guru Parampara. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam
Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Good morning. So we had finished that very potent verse, Pratibodhitam Matam, which covered 2-3 classes. And now we are on the 5th verse. So we'll chant that. Iha cheda vedid atha satyamasti.
Iha cheda vedid
atha satyamasti.
Nachediha vedin mahati vanishtaha. Vinishti.
Nachediha vedin
mahati vinashti.
Bhuteshu bhuteshu vichitya dhiraha.
Bhuteshu bhuteshu vichitya dhiraha.
Pretyasman lokadamrita bhavanti.
Pretyasman lokadamrita amrita bhavanti.
Okay, so I'll just mute you out. Now, the first quarter we'll take Iha cheda vedi atha satyamasti. So to break it up carefully, Iha chet eva, the first part, Iha chet eva avedit and atha. That's the breakup of the second word. So Iha eva chet. Iha means here, chet eva, supposing in this life itself. Iha is here. So supposing here itself, in this current Manusha Janma itself, what happens? Some person avedit. Avedit means he knows. He becomes a viditavan. He knows. Supposing a person knows. Knows what? That will come to. But what sort of person is he who will know? Shankara says, Manusyaha adhikrataha. Means he is a adhikari. Must be a sadhana chatushtaya sampanna person. Must be accepting the Vedas pramanam. He must be adhikari. He must have all the necessary qualifications. We saw that earlier. Viveka, Vairagya, all those things he must have. And supposing such a person knows what? Atmanam. He knows the Atma. And in his comment, Shankara adds, he must know the Atma in the manner prescribed in the Upanishad. What is that manner?
Like you said in the previous mantra that I am the content of I am that unchanging content of that changing thought.
So in the manner here means you have to remember those two words, Pratibodhitam Matam. So Shankara says Yathoktena Prakarena, in the manner described in this Upanishad, which means in the manner described in the previous mantra, which we said was a very important mantra. What does that mantra say? Pratibodhitam Matam. He must know the Atman, that is to say, I. He must know I. He must know himself as the content of every thought, as the content of every experience, as present in every thought and present in every experience. Atha. So that brings us to the next word, atha. Then what? Satyam asti. There is satyam in this, and Shankara adds there is satyam in this human life. Okay. So satyam is there in the moolam, in the first line, and we have to understand what is meant by it because the Upanishad does not explain. So Shankara gives it 4 different meanings. So he says Satyam can be taken as Avinashaha, indestructible, immortal. So then if you take that meaning, what happens? If a person knows that he is the content of every thought and every experience, that he is present in every thought and in every experience, he becomes Avinashaha, means indestructible. He means he becomes immortal. He gains the knowledge that he is immortal. So that is the first meaning of the word Satyam. The second meaning he says is Arthavatva. Arthavat means meaningful. So then the second meaning will be that if he gains this particular knowledge, Pratibodhitam Matam, then his life will become meaningful. Again, you have to take it as Atma Jnanam has been gained, and only through Atma Jnanam the life becomes meaningful. Then there is the third meaning, third meaning is given by Anandagiri. He says Sadbhavaha. Sadbhavaha means the Sadhu Bhavaha, the glories. And therefore, the third meaning is that if you understand that you are the Atma in this manner, then your life becomes glorious. All this you have to translate it only one thing. Your life becomes glorious because you got Atma Jnanam. Your life becomes meaningful because you have got Atma Jnanam. You become immortal because you have got Atma Jnanam. The substratum is always Atma Jnanam. And the fourth meaning is Paramarthata. Paramarthika Satyam is what? Knowledge of Atma. So again, when you get that particular knowledge, it brings you to what is known as Paramarthika Satyam or Brahman. You understand that you are Brahman alone. That is the meaning of the first quarter. Very detailed meaning is given. 4 different aspects: Avinashaha, indestructible, immortal, meaningful, and glorious, and Satyam Brahma. All ultimately translated to one thing. Through that Atma Jnanam, you understood that you are Brahman, and therefore all the glories of Brahman become yours. So that is the first quarter. The second quarter with na ched iha vedit mahati vinashtihi. So again, you have to break carefully. Na chet iha, and na chet iha means while being alive, or in this life, while being alive. And again, Shankara adds the person should be adhikari. Sadhana chatushya sampannaha. Adhikrata, he should be there. What was the first line? In this life, if he gains this knowledge, right? So we said Vedita. Now here in this quarter, you can see the first word is na. So it becomes na avedita. So in this life, iha, if he does not know what? That same idea, pratibodhitam matam. If he does not know that I am the consciousness present in every experience, then what? Mahati vinashtihi. Vinashtihi means loss, vinasha, loss. Mahati means infinite, ananta. And therefore, he says, if you don't know, then there is infinite loss. You can translate it as loss of the infinite also. Infinite is not Brahman. Then you do not understand Brahman. Therefore, for you, Brahman is lost. And therefore, there is Vinashanam. Vinashanam is, Shankara gives the meaning of samsara gati he also. Perpetuation of samsara. The loss is infinite. The loss of the infinite results in samsara to you. So samsara gati is janma marna, that cycle. Janma jara marana adi prabandhaha. Prabandhaha is cycle. So if you do not understand that you are Brahman, then what is the loss? Samsara continues for you. You continue in the cycle of birth and death. While in case you understand you are Brahman, when we already saw Satyamasti, the 4 different meanings were there. This was the first quarter, second quarter. So this essentially is a summary of what has been happening so far. Okay, so if you recall all that you have studied, this was summarizing that. Then the third quarter is Bhuteshu Vichitya dhiraha. So here dhiraha, normally dhira means courageous, but here dhiraha means the person who has followed the life prescribed in the scriptures. It means one for whom priorities are clear. He has got sadhana chatushtaya sampannaha. So that dhiraha, who has followed karma yoga, upasana yoga, what does he do? Vichitya. Vichitya means he inquires. He inquires through jnanam and he gets the knowledge. What knowledge? Pratibodhitam matam. I am the consciousness in this body, in all bodies, and that I am the consciousness in every single principle, every single thought, every single experience. Okay. Then, bhuteshu bhuteshu. He also understands that I am the consciousness in all beings. Hence, bhuteshu bhuteshu vichitya. This dhiraha, through his vichitya, through his inquiry, he sees himself as present in bhuteshu bhuteshu, in all the beings. Not only in all experiences he sees himself, not only in all thoughts he sees himself, but in every single being, not just human beings, every single living being, he sees himself. Okay, that is the what we call in Gita Sarva Bhutastham Atmanam Pashyati. You see yourself in all beings. And that is the advantage. And then what happens? Then Asmat Lokat Pretya Amrita Bhavanti. Right? Asmat Lokat Pretya. Asmat Lokat Pretya literally means having left this world, having left the body. Amrita Bhavanti, he becomes immortal. Right? So it's a very simple meaning you can take, that having understood that he is Brahman, in the third line, what happens? He is Jivan Muktaha. And Asmat Lokat Pretya, when he drops his body, he is Videha Muktaha. So the question here is, you have a body and you have consciousness. You have to decide, ask yourself, which is my intrinsic nature? Is it the body which is my intrinsic nature, or is it the consciousness which is my intrinsic nature? Whichever I take as my intrinsic nature, I will be attached to that. If the body is intrinsic, then I will want the body to be eternal. But that the nature of the body itself is such that it is not eternal. And therefore, wisdom lies in understanding that body is the dress that I, eternal Brahman, am wearing. And like all dresses, which need to be discarded when they get old, the body also needs to be discarded. So that is another meaning for this Asmat Lokat Pretya. When you understand the body is not you, what are you doing? You are breaking the identification with the body. That strong identification saying, I am the body, you are breaking. And therefore dropping the Deha Abhimana, dropping the body identification is also called Asmat Lokat Pratya, detaching yourself from the body. So with that definition, you can take Asmat Lokat Pratya also as Jivan Mukta. Why? Because you have claimed yourself as Atma and therefore detached from the body. Therefore, you have left the body behind. Asmat Lokat Pratya. And if you take this, then what is there? You will continue to, the body will continue to live until the Prarabdha is exhausted. And when the Prarabdha is exhausted, Amrita Bhavanti. There will be no more rebirth. Because you are already one with immortal Brahman. When body is gone, it appears that you merge into Brahman. And again, I will repeat, there is no movement in this merger. There is no real merger. It is like the pot space, the space in the pot, Ghata Akasha, merging into total Akasha when the pot breaks. We retain the name pot space when, as long as the pot exists, right? When the pot breaks, all that happens is the name pot space is dropped, we go back to the original space. Similarly, we retain the name Jivatma only as long as we apparently associate it with the body, the container. The body is the container. When the body is gone, then the individuality also is gone. And therefore, the name Jivatma is replaced by the name Paramatma. And this is what is Videha Mukti. Okay. So, what is this identification characterized by Shankara says? When you say Deha Abhimanam, there is a characteristics. That is, there is Mamakara and there is Ahankara. What is Mamakara? Mamakara is identification with what is mine. So you have to take these two words differently. Both Mamakara and Ahankara are very strong identifications, right? So Mamakara is identification with what? With your relationships, with your, what all you have, your possessions, and of course with your professions, because all of us have a very strong need to be identified with what we do. So Mamakara has three aspects: identification with relationships, identification with possessions, and identification with profession. What is the difference between Ahankara and Mamakara? Ahankara is also identification, but it is with the body and the mind. Both Mamakara and Ahankara are identifications, but Ahankara is identification with Anatma, which is body and mind, which is very close to you. And Mamakara is identification with another three Anatmas: relationships, possessions, and professions. We take only these. Why? Because any disturbance in any of these three, they cause us disturbance of mind. Now, for example, if you take anything else, then the death or disturbance of something beyond these five, they may worry you slightly, but they will not cause a strong disturbance in your mind. Therefore, when we say this identification usually we restrict to these five: the body, the mind, your relationships, your possessions, and your professions. These have a capacity to disturb you very, very strongly. With respect to anything else, everybody is a jnani. Disturbance is minimal. And why does this happen? This identification happens because of what? Ajnanam only, not knowing that you are Atma. So this is all the explanation for Asmat Lokat. And what happens when you say that Asmat Lokat Pretya, it means that you are transcending, or rather you are going beyond the reach of these five Anatmas. Why? Because as Atma, I am Asangaha. I have no body, I have no mind, I have no family, I have no possession, and I have no profession. So, Pretya, Asmat Lokat Pretya, dropping the body, is basically shifting from the triangular format to the binary format. Okay. Again, I'll repeat that this is basically a transformation in my own mind. It need not be expressed. In fact, it should not be expressed in your relationships, in your transactions with people. The binary format is for your consumption alone, right? And therefore, a lot of people, they talk about jnanis who try to express this non-identification with this body-mind complex by changing their very language, right? So they say things like this body is hungry, this body is cold, this body is warm. What I'm saying is that this particular transformation is in my mind. And I should not try to confuse people by saying stuff like, this body is hungry. I don't think it will fly very well with your family if you say this body is hungry. You might as well say, I am hungry. What is required is that when you are saying I am hungry, mentally you know that it is the body. For transactions, you are deliberately using the expression I to stand for the body. When you say that, I'm feeling happy, you are deliberately using the expression I to stand for the subtle body. So this idea we should have. Wherever we talk, the binary format is for our consumption. Your interaction should always be in the triangular form. And if you do this consistently, then what happens? Amrita bhavanti. You will drop the notion that you are immortal. And Shankara says, this means Brahmaiva bhavanti. Ultimately, this means that you have become Brahman. So somebody said very nicely, Brahma praptihi. The acquisition of Brahman is nothing but the elimination of the adhyasa that you are not Brahman. So Brahma praptihi is elimination of non-Brahma adhyasa. We are all suffering from the adhyasa that you are the body, mind, sense complex. That is non-Brahma adhyasa. When you eliminate that adhyasa, the non-Brahma adhyasa, it is called Brahma praptihi, acquisition of Brahman. And if you remember the last Upanishad that we studied, this is confirmed there also. Sa yoha vai tat param brahma veda brahmaiva bhavati iti shrutehe, it says. Mundaka Upanishad says that the one who has understood, right, Brahma Veda, tat param Brahma Veda, the one who has understood that he is Brahman, what happens to him? Brahmaiva bhavati. He becomes Brahman himself. A person who knows Brahman becomes Brahman. And therefore the Upanishad here is saying that Jnanam is possible for a human being, and therefore do not waste your human life, because there is no guarantee that the prarabdha is so good that in the next birth also you will have a human birth. You might end up with something else, and therefore do not waste your life at all. So with this verse, with this mantra rather, the teaching of the Kenopanishad is over. Right? So these, as you know, this Upanishad consists of 4 chapters, right? The first 2 chapters are meant for the person who is a good student, who has understood. In the next 2 chapters, the same teaching is again communicated, but it's communicated for the person who is not sadhana chatushtayam. And when you do that, what do? When you teach the scriptures to advanced student, you can teach directly from Shruti and Smriti. When you teach to a, mediocre student, a not prepared student, what should you do?
Use an anecdote or a story or
Teach 2 stories. And therefore, we have the levels of our scriptures also. We have Upanishads, we have Smritis, and then we have what? Tattva-bodha, first class. Yes, Itihasa, Purana, all these things you've got, right?
story forms.
So chapter 3 also is the same teaching, but it is in the form of a story. So first, I will just briefly narrate the story, and then we'll go through the individual mantras. So it tells a story. The next chapter, chapter number 3. In the story, and as you all know, in our Puranas, there are Devas and there are Asuras, and they are regularly fighting each other, battling with each other, right? So in this story also, Devas and Asuras have gone through a battle, and the battle has been won by the Devas. So Devas are celebrating, right? They're celebrating the battle. And in the celebration, the celebration becomes so intense that they forget that it was actually the Lord's Ishwara's anugraha, Ishwara's blessings, because of which they won the battle, and therefore they become arrogant. Devas become arrogant. They forget the Lord. So Ishwara decides that this is not a good thing to happen and the arrogance has to be removed. So he appears before them in the form of a yaksha. So what's the yaksha? Yaksha is, well, the definition is yajna yogya yakshaha, the one who is eligible for being worshipped. Okay, sacred being, you can say. So appears in the form of a bright yaksha. And the Ishvara appears, he is neither too close to where the Devas are, nor is he too far. So while they can see him, while they can see this form, they cannot really, from that distance, they cannot find out exactly what that form is. So they want to find out. So you can imagine this is the scenario. The Devas are all assembled in one place, and a little far away, Ishvara appears as this Yaksha. And the Devas want to know who is this Yaksha, right? So they send a messenger. The first messenger is Agni Devata. And Agni Devata, as we know, is the messenger of the gods, right? He is a courier service of the gods. And that's why whenever any homa is done, the oblation is offered to Agni Devata. Because Agni Devata knows where each Devata resides, he will take your oblation and he will deliver to the right Devata. So he is the messenger of Devatas, and that is why he is asked to go. So Agni goes to the Yaksha. And the Yaksha says, "Who are you, bhai?" So he says, "I am Agni Devata." And Yaksha wants to know what is so special about you. So he says, "I am powerful and I can destroy the entire universe." So Yaksha says, "Fine." So Yaksha picks up one dry blade of grass, puts it in front of Agni Devata and says, "You say you can destroy the whole universe? Fine. I don't want you to do that. You just burn this blade of grass." And remember, it's a dried up blade of grass. So Agni huffs and puffs and all that, but nothing happens. Despite its best efforts, the blade does not burn. The grass does not burn. So Agni gives up and comes back and tells the Devatas that I am not able to find out who that Yaksha is. So he has failed. So now Devatas say, fine, Agni has failed. So they get hold of Vayu Devata, who is also very powerful, and send Vayu Devata. So Vayu Devata goes, and Yaksha says, "Who are you?" And Vayu Devata says, "I am Vayu Devata. And what is my power? I can blow anything from anywhere to anywhere." Okay, so you can imagine what happens. Yaksha smiles and he points to that blade of grass which is still lying there. What does he say? Don't blow anything from anywhere to anywhere. Just blow away this blade of grass from in front of you. So Vayu Devata tries and tries, but in spite of all his efforts, the blade doesn't even flutter. So he also comes back. He fails. He comes back and says, "I was not able to find out who the Yaksha is." Then what happens? Then Indra, king of the gods, he decides, "I will go because all my messengers are useless." So he goes. Now, when he goes near the Yaksha, before he can open his mouth, the Yaksha doesn't say anything. Yaksha simply disappears. Now, here is a difference. This Indra, he simply doesn't come back and say, "Oh, I couldn't do anything." He thinks. He stands there and he thinks. And since he is the king of the gods, he got slightly more brains than the rest of them, it appears. So he says, he thinks and thinks, and he realizes that it could be his pride which has caused the problem, right? It could be because he was so proud. And it could be, of course, he gets that from the extension of the two. Agni Devata was proud, he said so many things. Vayu Devata was proud, he said so many things. And therefore, Yaksha simply wanted to teach them that ego doesn't get you anywhere. And the king of God, as king of gods, he also went and he was full of ego, saying because he's the king of the gods. And Yaksha didn't want to even talk to him, just disappeared. Therefore, realized that it is possibly his pride which was the cause of the problem. And therefore, he became humble, right? And this we see that pride is one of the biggest problems in spiritual pursuit. Where did you see it? Bhagavad Gita. You should know all these words. Bhagavad Gita, where did you see that? Those who are chanting, at least you should remember. No? Amanitvam madambhitvam. What does it come?
16th Adhyay.
No.
13.
13th.
Daivasur Sampatti.
13th. Okay, so the amanitvam means the lack of manitvam, lack of pride is the first virtue. So that's what Gita also says. Okay, to carry the story further, Indra has understood that the root cause is his pride. And therefore he sits there and he prays to the Lord, prays to the Yaksha. Then what happens? Yaksha doesn't come, but Parvati Devi appears, Lord Shiva's wife. Okay, this is the content of the third chapter. So in the fourth chapter, the story continues. So Indra asks Parvati to teach him, and Parvati accepts Indra as a disciple. So he becomes Oma Shishya. And the teaching is the same, whatever has been taught in the last two chapters, chapter 1 and 2. And since Uma Devi was teaching, Parvati was teaching, Indra had no choice but to become a jnani, right? Ultimately, it is said that the failure of a student is not the failure of a student. It is really the failure of the teacher to show the student what he should have shown. And Parvati was a good teacher, so Indra had no choice but to become a jnani. Having got jnanam, Indra goes back to the devatas and explains everything and is glorified by the devatas. And then Indra says, I will share this knowledge with you also. And therefore, Agni Devata and Vayu Devata also get Atma Vidya, get Brahma Vidya, also become jnanis. This is a story. So we have to extract what are the teachings which are sought to be conveyed through this story. Yaksha appearing in front of the devatas. What does it indicate?
Hello, Raviji, may I try?
Please, Nataraj.
It means that these people had the grace, God had the kindness to come before them so that giving them an opportunity to improve.
Yes. So basically, what had they done? They had appropriated the victory to themselves, and therefore they had forgotten the existence of God, of Brahman. So the appearance of the Yaksha is Brahmanasti. Nirguna Brahman exists. Okay. So the Nirguna Brahman which we are talking about is, of course, in this story represented by Saguna Yaksha. And why is it far away? Because it is not understood clearly until you inquire. So the whole teaching was that everybody knows that he is. If something is there, you know. But what is it that you are, you don't know. So that is the story. That Yaksha is there, I know. But the Devatas know, but Yaksha is Brahman, they don't know. That part is conveyed by the fact of Yaksha appearing at a distance, so that they had to actually go and inquire. Without inquiry, Brahmajnanam will not be got. Point number one. Point number two, the glory claimed by you does not belong to you at all. How is this point brought across in the story?
Because when both the Agni Devata and the Vayu Devata were claiming the powers of the Yakshas, disproved them by.
Correct. Agni Devata and Vayu Devata discovered that they were powerless without the blessings of Yaksha. Without Nirguna Brahman, no glory belongs to you. Whatever glory you claim is yours actually belongs to Nirguna Brahman. We saw this in Bhagavad Gita.
Yes, Yadyad Vibhuti Matsatvam.
Exactly. So remember, everything, actually almost every point that we are studying has been already covered in Bhagavad Gita. This is just being presented in a different way. And therefore, no glory belongs to you. Therefore, you should not have pride. That's point number two. Now, Agni, Vayu, and Indra could not know Yaksha. That is to say, here in this story, Agni, Vayu, and Indra represent Agni and Vayu. Sorry, Agni and Vayu represent the Indriyas. This not Indra, the Indriyas, sense organs. So why is that so? Because the word Deva appearing in Shastra is used in two meanings. Is used as God, is also used as sense organ. So here, if you use the Agni Deva and Vayu Deva as sense organs, it means that sensory organs cannot know Brahman. Nirguna Brahman is beyond the scope of the sensory organs. And Indra is the mind, right? The Lord of sense organs, Lord of Devas. Lord of Devas, and if you are taking Devas as sense organs, Lord of sense organs is who? Is the mind, the coordinator of the mind. He also could not know Brahman. Thus, what have we said? Sense organs cannot know Brahman. The mind also cannot know Brahman. This we have seen earlier, right? Indriya agocharaha manatitaha. We have seen this, that Brahman cannot be known either by the sense organ or by the mind. It is beyond both. Okay. Now, Agni and Vayu could not, of course, get the knowledge. Indra got the knowledge. By what? By becoming humble. What happened when he became humble? Uma Devi came. Who was Uma Devi? Uma Devi was his guru. And therefore, the teaching is that when you are ready, so here, of course, it was talking about the dropping of the ego. But let us say that we are not egoistic people. And I'm not saying we are not, but let us say, for argument's sake, let us say that all of us advanced Vedantic seekers are not egoistic people. What does it mean? When you are ready to receive the jnanam, the guru will appear. And just as when the flowers are ready, then the bee comes. Nobody sends an invitation to the bee. So similarly, once you are ready, you need not send invitation to the teacher. He will be drawn helplessly to you by the law of karma. Right. Then the fifth point. After gaining Atmajnanam, remember Indra was already king of the gods. But after gaining Atmajnanam, he became more glorious. Therefore, Brahma Vidya gives vibhuti, glory to a person. Right? Remember that whenever we sing praises about a jnani, the glory never belongs to the jnani. It is always belongs to jnanam. Jnanam is nothing but Brahma Vidya. And that is why we keep on saying that whenever, as a teacher, if you are a teacher, and whenever anybody does namaskara to you, that namaskara doesn't belong to you at all. And how do we remind ourselves of this in every class?
By our opening prayers, Sadashiva Samarambham,
Correct. Because you are
Shankaracharya
passing on the whole thing to the parampara, to the lineage, knowing that it doesn't belong to you. The lineage is nothing but a pipe for passing the jnanam. The jnanam is nothing but Brahma Vidya, Atma Jnanam. And therefore, no glory really belongs to you. Never be proud. Even if you have understood and assimilated that you are Brahman, that glory belongs to Brahman alone. That is the fifth one. And the sixth one is that this story is indicating that there are certain upasanas in the scriptures which can be practiced, like upasana on lightning, etc. So that all we'll see when we come to the story. These are the six teachings or learnings that you can extract from the story. Okay, any questions so far?
Very beautifully explained, Acharya.
Yeah, the story is very nice, and it is in fact, when you really, though the story is meant for Manda Madhyama students, when you have done the 2 chapters and then you read the story, it becomes much more beautiful. So let us look at the first mantra of the 3rd chapter. Tritiya Khandaha Prathama Mantraha. So we'll read. So please unmute yourself. Brahmaha Devebhyo Vijignye
Brahmaha devebhyo vijigye
Tasya Brahmano Vijaye Deva
Tasyah brahmano vijaye deva
Amahiyanta
amahiyanta
te yakshan tasmakam vijayah
Ekshanta asmakam evaya
tayekshantasmakam
te yakshan tasmakam vijayah
ekshanta
tayekshantasmakam vijayah
asmakam vijaya
asmakam mahimeti.
asmakam mahimeti.
mahimeti.
So the words will be Devebhyaha Brahmaha Vijignye. Devebhyaha for the Devas, Brahmaha Vijignye. Brahman got the victory. Then Tasyaha Brahmana Vijaye. In that victory of Brahman. So the story is very nicely put. Brahmaha Vijignye Devebhyaha. Brahman won a victory for the Devas. But Tasya Brahmana Vijignye, in that victory of Brahman, what happened? Devaha Amihiyantaha. The Devas glorified themselves. And Te Ekshanta Iti. They thought in this manner, Ayam Vijayaha Asmakam Eva. This victory is ours only. And Ayam Mahima Asmakam Eva. This Mahima, this glory is ours only. So that is the basic word meaning. So the Lord got victory for the Devas. Here, remember, there is a difference in the use of the word Brahman in the first 2 chapters and in this chapter. In the first 2 chapters, Brahman was what? Nirguna Brahman. But here, Brahman got a victory. What does it make Brahman? Brahman
Saguna Brahman.
Saguna Brahman over here. This chapter is for Madhyama Adhikari and therefore Saguna Brahman only. But what is the problem? Tasyaha Brahmaha Vijaye. In this victory of the Lord, Devaha Amahiyanta, Devas thought it is their glorification. So here again you are saying that if you have some talent for which, or some victory you have done, or some success you have had, for which everybody praises you, that glory does not belong to you at all. You should promptly hand it over to the Lord. But what did Devas do? Ta ashantaha. They thought to themselves, Asmakam eva ayam vijaya. This victory is ours. Asmakam eva ayam mahimaha. This glory is ours alone. So this is, I've already explained in great detail, so I'm going quickly. So this here, remember that now Uma Devi is also involved in the story, right? And Uma Devi is Parvati, representing Brahma Vidya. Why couldn't you call Uma Devi as Parvati? Because Uma has 3 syllables and Omkara has 3 syllables. Omkara represents Brahma Jnanam, Atma Jnanam, and Uma Devi therefore also represents Atma Jnanam. So that is the story. And therefore the Lord thought it is time to get rid of this arrogance. This, of course, story doesn't say, we have to supply. So we go to the next mantra. Taddesham vijagnyau
Tadvaisham
Tadvaisham vijagno
tebhyoha pradurbhabuva
Tebhyoh
tebhyoha
pradurbhabuva
pradurbahuva
tanna vyajanata
tanna
tanna
vyajanata
vyajanata
kimidam yakshamiti.
kimidam
kimidam
yakshamiti.
yakshamiti.
So we'll go through quickly because simple words. So tat, that Brahman, Vijagnyo Haesha. Vijagnyo Haeshaha. So this Brahman, Vijagnyo Esham. Esham is this Devas. So what is being said here? That Brahman knew what the Devas were thinking. So Vijignyo Tadha Esham. Brahman knew what the Devas were thinking. So you can take it as Brahman knew about the pride of the Devas. Right? And therefore what did he do? Tebhyaha, for the sake of the Devas. And when you say for the sake of Devas, you have to say for the sake of, you have to understand, for the sake of getting rid of this arrogance, because arrogance is not good for the Devas. Therefore, Tebhyaha, for the sake of getting rid of the arrogance of Devas, Pradur Babhuva. Pradur Babhuva means he appeared in front. So Brahman appeared. So you can take it as Yaksha Avatara. So he appeared as a Yaksha in front of the Devas. Okay. Then, Tat na tanna vyajanata is Tat na vyajanata. These Devas did not know Tat, what that Brahman was, and therefore they said, Kim idam yaksham iti. Yaksha they knew because it had the form of a Yaksha. So Kim idam yaksham iti means they asked themselves, who is this Yaksha? Okay, so in brief, what it means is Brahman understood, or Brahman knew about the pride of the Devas, and to remove that pride, again compassion, right? Remove that pride, Brahman appeared, and when he appeared in front of them, they did not know who this Brahman was. So Kim idam yakshamiti, who is the Yaksha? They thought to themselves. Okay. Now mantra number 3. Te agnim abruvan.
Te agnimabruvan
Te agnim abruvan
Jata veda etad vijanihi.
Jataveda
jata
etad
veda etat
vijanihi
vijanihi
Kim etad yakshamiti.
kim
kim
etad
etat
yakshamiti
yakshamiti
Tatheti.
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 So Shankara doesn't have much to add. all these mantras. There's not much of a bhashyam, right? Because they are all very simple mantras. So he says, okay, fine, I'll give you what is definition. What is the definition of Agni? We don't know, right? And it's very rarely seen. So he says Agni is equal to Agragaminam. So Agre Gachati iti Agragrami. Agni means Agragraminam. What is Agragrami? Agre Gachati iti Gami. The one who goes in front. Agre Gachati. The one who goes in front. Iti Agragami. This is Agragami. What is Agragrami? Agragrami is Agni. So Agni is defined as one who always goes in front. Right? Who always goes in front of you? Remember we're talking about somebody going to somebody's house and you don't have telegrams or letters or emails in those days. How do you tell somebody that I'm coming?
Messenger.
Messenger.
You send a messenger. And therefore Agni Agragraminam, Agre Gachati, the one who goes in front, the one who is the Dut, the messenger. So that is the definition of Agni. Okay, it's a very nice one, which you don't find elsewhere. Then Agni is also known as, the next word is Jata Veda. Agni is also known as Jata Veda. Jata Veda is another name for Agni. So remember, in this story, Te Agnim Bruvan. What does it mean? They told Agni. Te Agnim Abruvan. So Agnim is second vibhakti, so it is object. Te is the gods, other devas. Te Agnim Bruvan. They told Agni, Jata Veda. Hey Jata Veda. So Jata Veda is a name for Agni. What is Jata Veda? Shankara describes Jatam Jatam Vetti iti Jata Vedaha. The one who knows everything that is born. Okay. Now the one who knows everything that is born can be taken as what? Sarvagnya, right? Is it not?
Yes.
One who knows everything that is born means the universe is born. And therefore one who knows everything in the universe, he can be taken as Sarvagnya. And so Jata Veda, the literal translation is Sarvagnya, the one who knows everything. But Shankara doesn't like that. So he says Sarvagnya almost. He adds Kalpakam, almost. He says Jata Veda is not completely omniscient, he is almost omniscient. What could be the reason?
Agni
Because he
didn't recognize the yaksha.
no, because he knows everything that is
He
born,
didn't.
but not everything which is not born.
No. The reason is
He
Shankara
didn't
adds
know
this
the
because there is only one entity who can be Sarvagnya. What is that entity?
Bhagavan.
Ishwar,
Brahman.
Bhagavan. And Agni is a Deva. Deva is not Bhagavan. What is Deva?
The totality of one power.
Yeah, power.
I have explained before also that Deva, Agni rather, Agni, Yama, all these are roles, they are positions. Right?
Yes.
These positions are occupied by whom?
By jivas.
By jivas, because of their
Punyam.
Because of their
excessive
punyam.
punyam, exalted punyam, you get promoted to that particular role. Therefore, they are all jivas only. They cannot be Ishvara. And that is like, he says, Agni knows almost everything, but not everything, because only Ishvara can know everything. Anyway, he is adding all this because there is not much to say over here. And as one of you said, Agni could not identify the Yaksha, so obviously he could not be Sarvagnya. Okay, so with this, we should stop for today. This one more, we'll do the rest in the next class. Any questions?
Sir, you just used a word, Sarvagnya Kalpakam.
Kalpakam means almost in this case. Kalpakam literally means imagine. Kalpa is
Okay.
imaginary, but you can take it as almost. So Sarvagnya Kalpakam means almost Sarvagnya. Saying that
Right.
he's an exalted Jiva, so he cannot know everything.
Yes.
Acharya in the binary format, we'll know Atma, Anatma, and know Anatma as Mithya,
Yes.
and know that everything is dependent on me, the Atma.
Remember this discussion we have had in Mundaka Upanishad. I don't know if you
Okay.
remember. Sarvavit and Sarvagnya. What is the difference?
Sarvavit is a person who knows the essence of everything, and Sarvagnya is Ishvara alone.
Anybody else?
Sarvavit is one who knows everything about about the anatma, and Sarvagnya has the complete knowledge, which only Bhagwan has.
Anybody
The
else want to
Ravi.
try? Yes.
Ravi, may I
Yes.
try?
Yeah, please.
What?
Please.
There is the capability to know that.
Okay. Capability to know what?
See, there is a knowledge. Now
Yeah.
that knowledge exists. If somebody is capable of knowing that knowledge, he may not have it then, but he is capable of knowing it. At any point of time, he can draw upon that capability to acquire that knowledge. So one is the existence of knowledge,
Huh.
and then additionally capability to know that knowledge.
Okay, so I'll expand on it slightly more, and I think all of you all should go back and see that particular.
try?
Yes, Bharati, please go ahead.
Yeah, it means Sarvavid, I suppose it means that a person has a knowledge of, suppose, computers. Somebody has knowledge about astronomy. Somebody has knowledge about some other thing. But does not Sarvagna means having knowledge about everything, each and everything, complete knowledge. There's nothing else other than that.
All right, so again, I'll say go back to the particular thing. It's a very important concept, which I don't think all of you all have understood fully. So a person can have total knowledge about one thing, right? For example, let us say that I am a automobile engineer. I am a Sarvavit as far as automobiles are concerned. I'm an automobile with. I know everything about automobiles. I can build an automobile, right? Sarvagnya, I know that the truth about Atma and Anatma. I know that Anatma is Mithya. I know that Atma is everything. Therefore, I know that Atma is present in everything. That is Sarvagnya. The knowledge that I am all. That is Sarvagnya. And Sarvagnya, a Jnani can become. Because becoming a Jnani means he knows that he is the essence of everything. That is called Sarvagnya. But Sarvavit, a Jnani cannot become. Sarvavit means total knowledge about everything. And Sarvavit, only one entity can become. And that is why he can create the universe. Ishvara is Sarvavit because he has total knowledge about everything. And that is why he is able to create everything. So that difference, remember, Jnani is always Sarvagnya, but not Sarvavit. Ishvara is both Sarvagnya and Sarvavit. Does it make sense?
Yes. I forgot.
We have discussed this.
Yes.
You have to remember this because these two words are used very frequently. Okay, so with this we'll stop.
Acharya,
yes, Kush, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. So Acharya, in the binary format during Nididhyasanam, we have to remember ourselves as Sarvagnya.
You have to remember yourself as Brahman.
As Brahman. And remember whatever is going in samsara is dependent on me. But I am Atma.
Yes, that is Nididhyasana.
Thank you, Acharya.
Om Om Purnamadav Purnamidam
Purnamidam
Purnat Purnamudachyate
Purnamudachyate
Purnasya
Purnasya
Purnamadaya Purnam Eva
Purnameva
Vasishyate
Vasishyate.
Om Shanti
Om Shanti
Shanti Shanti.
Shanti.
Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your
Om Namah
patience.
Shivaya. Thank
Om
you
Om.
so much.